Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome to episode 180 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. Nature is one of the most concrete forces in our lives. And as we start to change seasons and we start to find ourselves with different patterns, different routines, we notice that the outside world, the weather, does have an effect on our lives. And whether or not we've created a life where we feel insulated and protected from the environment or not, being in tune with nature and its seasons is a great way to consider how do we show up in our lives? How do we show up in our work? And today's podcast on how I balance my life with the seasons is going to give you examples of what you can do today to create a life and work situation that feels more in tune with your surroundings, more in tune with a bigger world around you, more connected. So right now it's fall. I love fall, and I love that change from the summer to the fall, from autumn. You see all of the leaves falling. It's just such an amazing reminder again of that physical change that happens around us and how it mirrors the internal change that's happening inside of us. I recently held the 5-year planning workshop and noticed that within the span of 1 week, so much in our outside world has changed. And that happens with us in our lives too. If you think about the leaves that have changed colors, that analogy is so amazing because in one day, people went from confused to clear on their dreams, on their plans, to feeling relieved to finally know what they are going to be doing. And when I created that workshop, I just really sat with this idea that so many of our lives are created by decisions that we made years ago. And we're just seeing the fruit of our labor now. And those decisions were made with the idea of what do I do to change my career, to open ourselves up to different kinds of relationship? What would it feel like to be re-engaged with that excitement that we had when we were starting out so many of these things in our lives? And even the decision to be coached for some of my clients, that is a turning point in their life, and how much has shifted for them when that happened. And when I started thinking about this line of work as well. And so really this cyclical nature, the seasonal nature, this idea that there's a reason that you feel on the cusp of change, there's a reason you're pursuing something new and different. And I'm seeing people creating new work and relationships every single day. And it is so inspiring. It blows my mind. I'm also seeing in my own life decisions I made to really step into certain roles I had in my personal and work life that I wanted to embody, that felt stretchy, far away, like a figment of my imagination, start to take form as well. And so I wanted to create this podcast with that energy of change, of what's possible, of really being in our real lives and honoring what's actually happening and holding the possibility of something that you're working towards that feels sometimes like you're just at the edge of seeing. And so I want to give you faith, hope, belief, and certainty that things are going to change for you in the best way possible. Recently, I went on a hike with my husband, and I was thinking about how much less fear I had about injuring myself than I had in the past. And I've been working through that idea that even if my body gets injured, I'm actually okay. I used to think that if I injured myself, it was some kind of failure. I didn't take care of myself well enough. Now I feel like injury is just not a problem. And it's made me take on that one thought, that one belief has made me take on these bigger challenges, even when I don't feel ready, or even when my body doesn't feel perfect. Things like a half marathon, training for a triathlon, 6 hours and 15 plus miles of the Spartan, even surfing and things like martial arts. It's not that I'm not scared, but it's like I've remembered that my body was made to be injured in a way. Things are supposed to break a bit and heal a bit and not be entirely perfect all the time. And it's fine. And I'm fine. And so I've always had this sense of knowing that I can handle hard things. But I did lose some of that trust in myself when I burned out, feeling like if I just go with the flow, I end up hurting myself along the way. And yet I realized in the last several years, after doing my own work on looking at my patterns and creating new patterns of thought and behavior that truly eliminate burnout, that I'm actually making more progress than I realized in all these areas of my life that once felt at a bit of a standstill. And so much of it has come from identifying with nature. And this has been such a big theme for me these years. Nature, the cycle of the seasons, nature, the ability for it to just continue to change, nature and how it moves on without personalizing, right? It just is. Nature just is. And when I started considering what does a more balanced life look like? A really vital life, a life where you feel more energy. I remember I was at the cusp of this burnout recovery process. I started realizing that transient nature of the seasons was creating this perfect backdrop for me to test how I did when it came to certain aspects of my life, such as working, such as resting, being with my family, playing, being re-inspired. And so I've broken my life into 4 seasons that reside within the 4 seasons that I experience here in the Northeast of the US. Sometimes summer I'll talk to you a bit about. I sometimes break that into 2 seasons, and I'll explain a little bit why. So let's start with the fall. In the fall, it's all about transition. And I'm transitioning into the following year by investing into myself and the world around me. I'm in this mode of planning, cleaning up my physical environment, creating a longer term vision. And I'm usually in a period when I talk about investing, I don't mean just money. I'm talking about time and energy. Like I'm actually putting more energy, time, resources and monies often into myself, my brain, my skills, into our family as well. And it's similar to this back to school period for students. I consider this a great time to be working on bigger projects. I often begin the process of planting and planning the next year during this time ahead of the rush of New Year resolutions, the holidays. And this year, I've been really leaning towards bringing up all of the planning activities, such as that 5 year planning workshop. I'm bringing it up closer to this seasonal period because it felt more natural to me so that we have time and we have space to enjoy this period of letting more and more things go and actually do a full evaluation of my time at this year. I decide even more what can I let go of. For example, reducing the number of decisions by deciding what new routines I'm working on. I've been really refining my sleeping, my recovery process, my waking hours, what I'm doing and when, and really making some big shifts in the way that I work and the time frames that I work in, constraining certain things. And it's been a lot of work in progress, but I'm seeing some of the fruits of that start to pay off as I start to see some of these changes take hold. And even things like when I talk about reducing decisions, things like deciding now where I'm traveling this next year and making that plan early on to reduce the number of decisions, because oftentimes at least for me, I know what times of the year work with traveling or don't work as well because of the kind of work that I'm doing, because of the kids' schedules with schools, and because of my husband's work and his rhythm of working as well. So when we delay and when I delay any of those decisions until later, I'm often not finding any new information out. I'm often just prolonging a decision, and there's more costs for pretty much all the things that come from delaying that decision. So it's not perfect always, nothing is, but I'm doing more and more of that in this time period. And in the winter, so now we move into winter, I'm really thinking about this focus on what I love and really taking care of small things that might block progress. When I think about winter, I actually think about like the time of year, like December 21st, December 22nd, that shift into the holiday period, also the shift into winter and that actual season. So when I think about what I love and taking care of those small things, it's as simple as cleaning and organizing my life even more. I host also a lot more. So if you imagine, I am making space for more things. Like I'm doing a lot at that time of the year. So I need more emphasis on having space, of reducing friction, which is why cleaning, organizing stuff is work. So as a result, I'm doing more things because I am making more space for it. For example, I host a lot more training workshops at that time of the year. I really load them up at the beginning of the year. I do a lot of gatherings in my home and with people. I host retreats at that time of the year, and I just create a lot of warmth in my home because I love people. I love connecting with people, so I like to have people over, and being able to do that more and more requires a little bit more of that planning ahead of time, decluttering, making it simple and easy to do the things that I care about in my own time. And I take time to travel as well during that time to really open myself up to inspiration, open myself up to the energy of change. I really think of this as this nesting period where even though I'm executing, it's in a way where I'm having time to do it because I've set myself up to it. I've cleared my calendar for it. Now, winter is often this wonderful time to think about what the people in your life mean to you. That's why I say it's like I have the things that I love and the things that I'm cleaning out to make space for things I love, and I love people. And when I think about that, it's why I'm here in the first place. Like, why are you here in the first place? When you reconnect to what you're here for, this is your purpose, this is what you love. And there's a sense of kind of restoring yourself. And when you think about restoration, it is making you more you. It's not like fixing, it is things like restoring our homes. When we think about little things that may have fallen to the wayside, maybe restoring our relationships, checking in with our partners and our friends and our family and our kids and asking them questions about how things are going, restoring our energy. This is a great time, especially if you're in a winter period that has more extreme temperature, to kind of spend time nurturing it in the opposite way. And for me, since it's cold, I like to do a lot of warmer things as a result. And it's also a time to restore the connection to the work that we do, which is why I think purpose really matters. And I usually make a point at this time of the year, to make a list of all the things I would love to do and the things that I need to do. And the smallest things count here. I literally have this massive list that I just keep on my phone and I check off, and it brings me joy to do that. And I love just having a place to keep all the things that keep popping up in my brain. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, this would be great. Oh, what a great idea. I get a lot of joy out of cleaning up odds and ends the final result, the process sometimes is, a little sticky, but when you imagine work, kids, a full family life, there are a lot of odds and ends to constantly be working through. And that's why simplification and simplifying my life a lot, removing as much clutter as possible from my mind, from my home, has been something that I've been really interested in. I think I've talked about in the past watching the minimalists and being really inspired by that. And I'm nowhere close to being a minimalist, but I love this idea. I think it's so aspirational. And I find myself asking how far I can go today and what progress I can make to just doing a little bit more with less, right? It's not about having less stuff because I just want to have less stuff, but this idea of what would life look like and how simple would it be and what are the problems that would be saved when we're reducing the amount of things that we are putting in, and we are able to get as much if not more out from the same or lesser things. So this idea, right, is a practice, and the winter for me is this great time to consider what we are bringing in and what needs to go, right? This restoration is almost like this cycle in and out. So even though fall is like putting a lot in, winter, I'm like, okay, getting it all out. What else? What else? What else? And it takes work to leave things unfilled and to hold off on adding more. So I think it's okay to have these seasons where you are actively kind of trying new things. Right now, I'm in the fall, I'm trying new things. There's some more coming into my life. And the winter, I'll start to edit, edit, edit. And I'm not talking about just like physical stuff. I'm talking about practices and ideas and what worked and what didn't work and what do I want to hold on to. So when I have all these routines and the things that I'm changing up, winter becomes a time where I start to lock in and load and say, okay, I'm actually doing this and this is what I'm going to try. And these are the decisions I've made in my work and my business and my personal life. And I'm just going to ride them out for the next several months. So that's why it's such a highly executional phase, right? In this winter, in this beginning period of just getting all done. In the spring, I'm in more of this phase of connection, of reconnection. I find myself naturally in a place where work is moving from more of that planning and new execution phase, like you're trying new things, right? And then you're now in this more rhythm and flow period with the schedule. People know what they're doing, teams seem to get the plan. Your family seems to know what they're doing and when. And we're reminding ourselves why we're doing this in the first place. So, spring is such a perfect time to move into cultivating more focus. Like, what am I shifting into? And being more creative. I love this idea of saying, okay, in this phase, what am I stretching towards? Similar to what you see in nature, where suddenly something sprouts out and you're like, how, like, I didn't know that that was underground, or obviously you knew, but you've been working on it. You don't see it until now. So, this idea of focusing on this creative process and the creative energy that we have within us to create new things is such a analogy for growth in this time. So this is the time that I'm usually taking to be re-inspired. And I do this in kind of a different way. I spend time with our family, but by ourselves. A lot of times we do family things with other people, but in the spring, we will do more things where we go away by ourselves. We've been, for example, doing Easter break with just my husband and the two kids. We will plan our own trips that just look a little different from the norm. We usually have these periods of spontaneity in the spring because we often have a lot going on the day to day, right? The rhythm and the schedule is kind of locked and loaded, that I purposefully try to block time for mystery, for what I consider magic, which is just these impromptu synchronicities to appear and for you to follow your intuition and go on that trip or say yes to that thing. So I'll usually have even more impromptu gatherings. I really do like to get with people a lot. So I even have I even have more gatherings with friends and family at this time of year. And this coming year, we're actually going to do a surf camp in El Salvador, just Jay and I, which is pretty amazing. We haven't done a big trip like this without our kids, and it is so fun to have that anticipation of this trip coming, to look forward to the time that we're going to spend together, doing something super different, really fun, and just a little out of the norm. And the kids are going to be with their grandparents. And it's just so perfect because they're at this age where it is really about their independence. And it's really important for them to feel independent, to know that they're independent, just enough, right? Not like you're by yourself, but wow, look at me starting to do these new and different things and being without us for this period of time, traveling right to the grandparents like this, like is pretty amazing. And in terms of work, I actually find that the spring is a time where I start refining the plan for that back half of the year. I start honing in more specifically on what needs to be done and when, how do things need to change. And often it's because I know that when summer's coming, there's a lot of this shift where everyone's schedule seems to flip flop and change a lot. So having that spring period is kind of that last bit of go of kind of this stability before it gets to be even more of this question mark that's happening. And so it's a good time to say, okay, now that we're all together with the teams or with the people that I work with, or even just with the calendar of events that are occurring and the milestones and what's happening when, it's a good time to start thinking about that second half of the year. And something I'm going to try this year, when I say this year, it is the next year, 2024, is consider that work of reconnecting with others at this time of the year as just as important as getting the work done. So a little twist, but still the same flavor of working with this idea of what am I focusing on? And connection is a big thing here for the spring. And reconnecting with this creative spirit for me has been a lot around being with and around others. Even though for me, I do really well with time by myself. That's also where I get really inspired. There's like a bit of this balance where we need time with ourselves, we need time with other people. It is the cycle of nature, just like anything else. So now let's talk about summer. Summer really is a time of this heat and intensity. Of course, depending on where you are, but I'm talking about the Northeast. But there tends to be this idea, especially in Chinese medicine, that the summer is associated with this fire element. And I always find that the balance becomes so important for the summer, specifically balancing what has been happening with the rest of this year. And I find this season to be this great time to go into maintenance mode with the workload, especially in the early summer, to just have the things that are really important locked and loaded, and you maintain them and you do those consistently. I find that people crave a little bit of that stability because some things around personal lives are changing, kids' schedules are changing. Usually, people are taking time off, and maybe even meeting with people gets to be a different kind of pace. So, I actually love this idea of when I think about balance, I spend more time with family and friends. I do it more intensely, and I actually have this breakout where I actually think of this early summer period and this late summer period is different. I was talking about that earlier, but I kind of break it into these two separate seasons because I actually find that I have so much renewed energy from the first half of the summer that I actually kind of love working a little more intensely in the second half of summer. And when I say that, it's a little more unconventional. I still take time off, and I think if you were to just look at my schedule, you would think, oh, you take a lot of time off. But sometimes when I take that time off, I actually do like some big work sprints. Don't tell people that I'm working in my time off, but I don't mind it. Like I actually sometimes just like the idea of having space where people aren't expecting a response from me that day. And I might go and do some other things that are really interesting and inspiring, but I still get time to do some work in. And it's a bit of this work sprint that feels healthy and reinvigorating to me. So I still do take time off in that late summer period, but I tend to work more intensely as well. And I have more energy because I've changed my environment and I'm reflecting on all of the new inspiration that I have and the new shifts that have come about, even for the way I think or the way I feel, or things that I didn't realize about myself that I'm realizing now. And so I'm excited at that time period of working to be diving into planning for the fall. I'm excited to make decisions about what I want to learn more about and what do I want to invest in. And it shows because by the time the fall ends and we're heading into winter, I actually find that there are so many things that have materially changed in my work and my personal life. I start realizing that I have this almost like as a milestone. Like in the fall, there are things that occur where I've invested in new skills. Which I love learning. So for me, that's a no-brainer. But I've challenged myself in some interesting ways physically. I have reconnected with certain relationships, or I'm in the process of doing that. So there's a bit of this like, I'll see the fruit of the labor in the fall and winter because I've been thinking and working about all of this and in that cycle of planting seeds and thinking and planning and letting go and making space much earlier on. So this is why I think summer, that's why I call it Summer of Magic when I created that workshop, which you can still access for free. And this is why I think that summer is such a great time to shift your identity, to change who you are around, to question who you are, who you want to be. And it was during those summers that I actually had a really hard time spending time with my family because I was just always on call. My mind was just constantly on work. I wished for things to be different. And that time of the year, this summertime, just highlights that sometimes we are out of balance. And what we are out of balance with, it actually pinpoints that. And therefore, we start to see, well, I wish I actually had more balance in my life. Perhaps we love spending time with our family, wish we did it more often. Perhaps we got time to do something interesting or to rest a bit, and we wish we did that more often. And I'm not saying like every day should be summer, but it's just a sign, another sign of what you really desire. And I even remember wishing, for example, that I wish I could go away for 2 weeks because I could barely take 1 week off. So why not hope for two, right? And so that was the start of some pretty epic travels and 4 week trips that we started taking and figuring out how to make this work thing still work. You still want to deliver incredible results in the commitments that you made to the organization, to the teams, to the clients that you have, but you also are committed to living a really full life where you're present with your kids, you're present with your family, you're present with just all the adventures that are possible for your life, no matter how much money you have, where you think you have to go or don't go, what you think is available to you. There's always a lot more fun. There's always a lot more joy. There's always a lot more curiosity and mystery that we haven't tapped into. And I find that every time I think I've had like another layer, there's another one that comes about. And I think that this is why that summer period and finding that balance is so helpful. Just from seeing what is in and out of balance, new things can start to happen. So those are the 4 seasons and the way that I've moved and shifted my life and work with the seasons. And I find that we're always in some season in our life. And if you're feeling disconnected from nature, if you're trying to push against the natural ebb and flow of our energy and the energy of our life, we tend to burn out. We tend to feel disconnected and we want to be inspired again. And so, if this is you, I just encourage you to take more time in nature. Really let nature do its work with your brain, your mind, its body, to ground you fully, to clear all those chemicals of stress and pent up energy that are coursing through our veins and through our body because we spend so much time just on thinking about all the things that have to be done. And when you start to let nature kind of really permeate you and you allow yourself to notice what is happening, you'll see it's all changing. Leaves are falling, they're purposefully dying. And there's a time and a place for all of this to happen. And one of the things that I think is amazing is to notice we're not always in growth mode in the same way. I'm not always investing in my learning and gaining new skills and doing all of that. Growth can look like restoring my energy or restoring your sense of energy and the way that you're planning. Growth can look like noticing what is in and out of balance for you in your own life. Growth can also be the way that you think about, what do I want to learn next? What kind of skills do I need? And what kind of mindset do I need? And what questions do I have? And how do I get to that place where I feel I'm on the cusp of changing into? And when you start to do what no one else is doing, which is questioning why you're living the way you're living and what rules you're following that don't need to be followed. When you do those things, you're going to find that you have a life that is fully your own. And in nature, everything is unique. So we're going to stop trying to copy and paste everyone else's version. We're going to move into this place of moving more naturally with the ebb and flow of the seasons. And you're going to find that you're creating something as unique as anything you see in nature, which has its own thumbprint across the board. So I wanted to share that because we are also enrolling now in that next round of Spiritual Achiever coaching. And this month, we're going to begin in that autumn mode of just coming into that letting go phase, letting go of those old negative thinking patterns and starting to ask yourself, what do I want to clean up and why? And we're going to spend time working with the seasons, with nature, so that you have a life and work that flows with the energy that's around you. And that when it comes time to harvest, you see things that have been materializing. It's not all about pushing, grinding all of the time. And we're going to start by really getting clear on focusing on what your definition of purpose is and how you can live into it and how it translates into your new identity and who you are in this next chapter of your life as you are reinventing yourself. So you can join the program now by going to mayemson.com/spiritual achiever. I cannot wait to see you in there. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.